Damn, Jose, I'm going, bro. As fast as these fat little legs of mine will go. I'm getting there, promise. What's happening, everybody? Happy Tuesday, happy time zones. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another installment of a cozy reading of, and we return to the Calvard Republic this evening with a cozy reading of Gambler Jack Volume 2. Philbert, my guy, Handsome Dan, I see you, big dog. I hope everybody's been having a good week so far. Thank you very much for being with us last night, here tonight, always. I still want to slow down Redeem? Like, what are we going to slow down? Notification? What's good, buddy? Bro, I'm excited for all of us. For all of us that have not had the opportunity to play Kuro no Kiseki or Daybreak, you know, I'm pumped for everybody across the board. How do I slow down, Phil? That's the opposite of speed up, Redeem? All right, I'll get that. I swear. I'll get that for Daybreak. I'll have that ready for launch. That's a promise. Also, so Thursday, obviously the game plan is we're going to do our raffle. We're going to watch Look Forward to Look Back. It's in Reverie. And then we're gonna watch like the Look Forward to Look Back, I think. Okay, yeah. And then we're gonna go back to Cold Steel 4, and we're gonna watch that other bit with the Grandmaster once you reload your final save state. I'm ready. Well, I need the game to ship. It'll get there. It'll be there. Yeah, the Grandmaster Daydream. But while we're on Thursday, so obviously it's the 4th of July. We're going to a family barbecue, and then Mrs. Neo wants to go and watch the fireworks. It'll be Youngblood's first fireworks experience, so I don't know how long he'll last. But they don't start till like 8:30, right around there. So we're still going to do everything as planned, but I think we're going to start closer to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know, it's crazy. Usually anything beyond 9, I'm tapping out. But I want to be there for, you know, for as short or as long of an experience for Youngblood, you know, to see the fireworks for the first time. He's got his hearing protection, the whole shebang, and it'll be his first time seeing fireworks, which is going to be pretty exciting. So we'll start closer to 10 p.m. Eastern. Be like, yeah, exactly. It's going to be a quick stream. Obviously, we're going to start things off with the raffle, do the giveaway, and then, yeah, we'll watch them bits. Elric, what's up? Jeff's planning to redo Beyond the Reverie Thursday. Excellent. Are you talking about the 4th of July stream? Obviously. Notification? Yes. But, and then fast forward to Friday on launch day. Obviously, it's not launching till 1 p.m. Eastern for myself. We'll go from probably 1 to 4 or 1 to 5, right in that ballpark. We'll hop off. You know, I'm going to do my usual family routine. You know, we're going to have supper, spend some time together, shower, the whole shebang. Youngblood will go to bed. We'll come back downstairs, and we'll get rocking and rolling again at our usual time, any other day of the week. So like 9 p.m. Eastern. Pretty much, when you end Fridays around the time all the news should be coming. Okay, see now, I guess that's excellent, because it's out in California, so it's what, like a 3-hour difference, Anime Expo? Obviously it was leaked earlier. I think it was leaked yesterday. But Oath of Felghana is coming to Switch and modern consoles. Early 2025, they're saying. There was, and I didn't look any more into it myself personally, so I could be incorrect, but there was no mention of PC. So I don't know if, you know, maybe they'll patch that in or something. I have no idea. So around 4 and 5 hour time. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to keep my phone at bay, and then, you know, obviously we'll double back. I'll check in before we go live Friday. Very exciting. Kondo-san. Panel with the news is 12:30 PST, so 3:30 Eastern. Oh, okay. The panel with the news is 3 to 3:30 Eastern. Gotcha. All right, so yeah. Regardless, whatever time, we'll catch up. We'll find out. We'll hear what Kondo has to share with everybody. The big announcement, and yeah, man, that's where we're at. So we're okay, we're good. So we'll be doing Gambler Jack Volume 2 this evening. Very much looking forward to it. Volume 1, good time for sure. So let's kick things off. Chapter 1, Jack and Hallie. The Calvard Republic. There's a city in this country, a place where migrants from the east have recreated their homeland down to the bright lacquered tiles. It's a recurring theme. Nicknamed the Eastern Quarter, it's a vibrant place, bustling and hot. The visible parts of the city aren't the only bustling areas either. The underworld is just as lively. For over a decade, the Eastern Quarter had been embroiled in a battle between old and new gangs. Half a year ago, the balance of power between the two changed significantly, all thanks to the outcome of a single game of poker. The newcomers suffered a crushing defeat while the established gangs enjoyed a glorious victory. The two players in that pivotal game, however, cared nothing for the gangs' territory disputes. The first was a man named Jack, a prolific gambler known by the moniker Victory Jack because of the countless wins he had to his name. The second was the daughter of the late King, Jack's former teacher and once the most skilled card sharp in the region. Is it supposed to be card shark? I don't know. Regardless. Her name was Hallie. The match between them took many unexpected turns, and shocking truths were dealt as readily as hands. The game eventually ended with Jack claiming the win, but Hallie's loss also liberated her from the seedy underworld she had been drawn into. After her infamous exit, Hallie took to working as a waitress in a rundown bar on the northern outskirts of the Eastern Quarter. I'm going to stop real quickly and ask, so the door in Sky the Third is set here, this time period, right? At least that's what I'm remembering. I could be incorrect. Jose, thank you for the sub, man. Sorry, I just stumbled my words big time. After her infamous exit, Hallie took to working as a waitress in a rundown bar on the northern outskirts of the Eastern Quarter. For Jack, who called that rundown bar home, it wasn't quite the ending he'd had in mind, but Hallie's unyielding resolve forced him to resign himself to the inevitable. Several months passed after that fateful game, and the two continued to live in relative harmony. It was on one such peaceful day, the heat of summer at its peak, that Hallie decided to take Jack out on a little trip. Their destination, the new town adjacent to the Eastern Quarter. Preferring to spend his time in the comfort and seclusion of the bar, Jack considered this idea nothing short of torture. Man, if only we had an Orbital car, he grumbled. Hallie shot him a skeptical look. You can drive, Jack. He shrugged. Well enough. Been a while, but wouldn't be much of a man if I couldn't. There aren't many guys of my caliber who can't handle a... Whatever, she interrupted, mercilessly cutting him short as they approached their destination. A newly constructed building with a giant sign above the entrance loomed before them. It was a movie theater, one of only a small number in the entirety of the Republic. Chapter 2, Solil of Love. Movies were a cultural phenomenon relatively new to Calvard and virtually unknown on the rest of the continent. There were stories told through moving pictures with sound recorded using an Orbital camera, edited and then displayed on giant screens in theaters for the enjoyment of the masses. And though movies were still uncommon, they were rapidly gaining popularity. Ordinarily, Jack spurned Hallie's invitation to venture out into the great outdoors, but his curiosity about this new innovation overcame his reluctance. So, which of the two are we gonna watch? This gunslinger from hell one looks to me, he said. 2 tickets for Solil of Love, please, Hallie said to Jack, her face positively beaming. Jack knew then that he had been a fool to even think he might have any choice in the matter. From the day that Hallie started working at the bar, it quickly became apparent that he had no hope of winning any argument against her. It would be easy to attribute this to the history between him and King, but truth be told, it was just his nature to fold against a hand like hers. He sighed. Solil of Love. as he recalled, was a movie adaptation of a popular novel, a love story. The genre alone was enough to convince Jack he wasn't in for a fun time, but he knew better than to try and resist. Reluctantly, he stepped inside the theater. At least the building had air conditioning. Love story or no, it would be marginally better than standing outside in the sweltering heat at least. Wow, look at that, Jack, this is so cool! Hallie's eyes were alight with excitement as she took in the building's modern fixtures. She caught sight of the refreshment counter and dragged him over to it. After much weeding and begging, Jack bought popcorn and drinks for the two of them. Snacks in hand, they made their way to their seats for the start of the movie. The film began to play, and a hopelessly attractive man and woman were projected onto the screen. Jack watched their romantic and tragic tale with stoic resignation while Hallie sat captivated by every scene. Eventually, the movie reached its torrid climax. The two lovers overcame the many obstacles in their path and finally came together as one in marriage, sharing a kiss so passionate that Hallie couldn't help but avert her eyes. She glanced over at Jack to see his reaction, and found him fast asleep in his seat. That's pretty good. I will say I missed all the first read because watching Jeff cry. Yeah, but you've already read Gambler. No, you read Sunshine Anya's. That's right. I forgot. Hydra, what's good, man? It's going very well. How are you? Chapter 3. I think it's pronounced Nikki. I could be wrong. Nikki and Leonard. After the credits rolled, the two of them made their way to a nearby cafe. The coffee shop had a relaxed, peaceful atmosphere, but the mood between them was anything but. Hallie was furiously stuffing herself full of parfait, which Jack had been forced to buy her, of course, while he could only sit by and watch in horrified fascination. It was her third. I cannot believe you! Your first time going to see a movie and you fall asleep? She said around mouthfuls of cream and fruit. Jack tried to sidestep her outrage and instead gestured to the remains of the dessert. You all done there? Had enough? I'll decide when I've had enough, she snapped, glaring over the rim of the glass. He raised his hands in surrender. Jack knew from experience that there was nothing he could do when she was in a mood like this. Anything he said would just make it worse, and weathering the storm was the best he could hope for. Of course, Hallie knew exactly what he was trying to do, and that just made her angrier. Her glare grew more pointed. I see you haven't gotten any better at understanding women's hearts, Jack, said a female voice at Jack's elbow. He started. How long had she been there? He didn't know. Hallie opened her mouth to say something, but when she beheld the owner of the voice, nothing came out. It was a woman in her late 20s. She had delicate youthful features and yet exuded the allure of a much more mature woman. Her hair was wavy and platinum blonde. She wore a glamorous red dress that was open at the front, displaying her generous bosom to its best advantage. It was a level of seductiveness Hallie knew she could never be able to achieve. What had stolen her breath wasn't the woman's attractiveness, however. It was the fact that she was the very actress who played the heroine in the movie they had just watched. Hello there, the woman purred. The name's Nikki. I'm an actress, I suppose. It's nice to meet you, Hallie, and nice to see you again, Jack. Jack squirmed under her dazzling smile. Do you know her? Hallie asked him. Yeah, Jack said, not meeting her gaze. We go back a while. The woman's eyes twinkled. Such a cold-hearted man. You could be a little happier to see me after all this time, you know. So she's King's daughter then, huh? Jack and Hallie turned to see a man in an expensive suit approaching their table. He seemed to be with Nikki. It's a pleasure to meet you, Hallie, the man continued. My name is Leonard. Then he addressed Jack. It's been 7 years, I believe. Good to see you again too, Jack. Hey, Leonard. Jack's reply was casual, but the tone conveyed great respect, as if addressing a superior. The power balance between the two of them was immediately clear to Hallie from that alone. Leonard was a man in his late 30s, roughly 5-year Jack senior. They had both learned together under King, but being the younger of the two, Jack had come to treat the other man differentially, much like he had his former teacher. Unlike Jack, however, Leonard had given up the gambling life and moved on to playing a new game. Now he was an up-and-coming politician, regularly featured on the front pages of newspapers and well known to the people of Calvert. An actress and a politician, the two of them certainly stood out. Several other customers seemed to realize who they were, and before long, all eyes in the room were on them. Nikki sighed. This is why I hate this job sometimes. You know you love the attention, Leonard replied with a grin. It does, however, make this place a bit difficult to talk in. Mind coming with us, Jack? Knowing full well he couldn't possibly refuse, Jack shrugged and stood up from his seat. Philly! What's up, bro, Chacho? Chapter 4, The Race. Lothar's with Shakin' Handsome. I'm doing well, brother. I hope you and the fam are excellent as well. We're almost there, bro. We got 3 days. Two and change. 2 and change if we really want to split the proverbial hair, right? Oh, you stop that. Everybody good north of the wall? You guys aren't having hail like our good buddy Ocean, are you? We did have hail? Good lord. Something about Canadian weather boggles my mind. It's pretty bonkers. Chapter 4, The Race. Jack and Hallie followed Leonard and Nikki out and eventually found themselves at an amateur racetrack. It seemed closed for the day, though, and no cars sped around the grounds or crowds graced the stands. Hallie gaped at the circuit. Wow, it's a racetrack! All of the excitement that she had felt in the theater came flooding back. It had been years since she had visited one, and the memory of that trip with her father had grown very faint. Seeing this track was almost as if experiencing it again for the first time. Nikki smiled at her enthusiasm. You are so cute, she said. Yeah, I can see why King doted on her so much now, Leonard replied with a nod. Well, seeing as you're here, want to see an actual race, Hallie? Hallie's eyes grew wide. Can I? Leonard nodded again. You can. If the man you're with says yes, anyway. Jack shifted uncomfortably as all eyes turned to him. It was obvious that Leonard's true motivation for the invitation was to get Jack to participate and that he had no qualms about using Hallie to that end. King's other former student was still every bit the calculating man that he used to be, and that was something that Jack had never been good at dealing with. Still, he owed Leonard a lot. He had learned a great deal from his former teacher, but he had learned just as much, if not more, from Leonard. How to drive an Orbital car was just one of these things. While King had always been the expert on gambling, Leonard was the authority on sports and all other forms of entertainment. Leonard turned to Jack. I was real happy when I heard that you'd gotten a bit of fire back after that game against Hallie. I thought you were a lost cause when King died. All those years wasted just rotting away. He gestured to the track. I want to see the victory Jack I used to know again, so come on, show me. Jack shrugged. Well, if you insist. I haven't been behind the wheel in quite some time, though, so I hardly think I'll be a worthy opponent. That's my man. Challenge accepted, the pair set about choosing their vehicles. Leonard, it seemed, was a friend of the track's owner. Not only could they choose whichever cars they wanted, but they had the entire racetrack to themselves as well. So it's not until this bit of dialogue here that when they showed up to the racetrack, I didn't pick up on it. I thought they were at like a horse racing track for some strange reason. But evidently they're at Talladega, so here we are. I'll go with this old Vern model, concluded Jack. Leonard laughed. I'll use one that has the same specs then. Wouldn't want to have an unfair advantage against you. Cars decided they moved to the starting line where a delighted Hallie was to give the signal. On your mark, get set, go! and they were off, Leonard in the lead and Jack following. In the past, the two of them had always been equally skilled at driving. In this race, their cars had also roughly equal specs, so the odds of Jack being able to catch up on any of the course's straights were practically zero. As such, the outcome would be determined by how he fared on the course's 3 corners. The first corner came. Jack kept his foot on the accelerator until the last second, trying to seize a chance to overtake. Leonard, however, responded by doing the same and denied Jack his chance. The second corner came. Jack followed the bend, conserving as much of his speed as possible, but Leonard maneuvered to block him, and he was forced to remain in second place. The third corner came. The last of the corners was a sharp hairpin turn, a fitting final battlefield to determine the outcome of the race, and it was here that the tide turned. Whether it was due to overconfidence from his earlier domination was unclear, but Leonard made a minor mistake that Jack was able to take advantage of, and he seized the lead. All that remained was the straight to the finish line. In the distance, Jack could see Nikki, racing flag held casually in her hands. Seeing her, he unconsciously loosened his grip on the accelerator. Leonard surged past him and was victorious. The race was over. Hallie came rushing over and Jack greeted her with a bitter smile. She clapped her hands together. "You did really well, Jack. It was just a shame you got past at the end." Leonard and Nikki joined them. Nikki's expression was impassive, but Leonard's was livid. "You held back again, didn't you?" he said. Jack hesitated. "No, He hadn't done it on purpose, but he realized that Leonard was right. Chapter 5. Daily Life. The truth was, he had been too afraid to ask, but he assumed that Nikki must be Leonard's lover. Seeing her at a finish line on the last straight, he had found himself not wanting to embarrass Leonard in front of her, causing him to subconsciously hold back. In addition, Jack hated being the focus of Leonard's attention. King had always favored Jack, seeing more potential within him than his other student, a fact that had filled Leonard with envy and resentment. Sensing this, Jack had begun to hold back whenever he was forced to compete against Leonard, a tactic that infuriated Leonard to no end. To him, Jack's behavior was nothing less than arrogance. Leonard clenched his teeth in anger, biting back further commentary on the race. 3 days passed since the race. Jack and Hallie were both back in the bar, whiling away the time the same way as always. In Hallie's case, this meant working hard, taking orders, and carrying drinks. In Jack's, it meant sleeping in his room behind the bar well into the day. Contrary to his appearance and indolent schedule, Jack was actually a man of many talents. Thanks to that and the kindness of the bar's owner, he had effectively ended up becoming its live-in gambler, something Jack was actually quite proud of. He was also charismatic enough to keep the more rowdy clientele in check, although how much they actually liked him was a question only they knew the answer to. The situation had changed somewhat since Hallie's arrival, however. While Jack was still the bar's resident grifter, in his position relative to its customers the same as ever, Hallie was clearly on a level above Jack, carefully manipulating him into doing whatever she wanted him to. It was an endeavor she had the support of the punks who hung out in there doing too. In other words, Hallie was now the one in charge. "Jack," she called, "the owner needs you to go and buy some ingredients for him." She got a yawn in response, then a muzzy, "Huh? Oh, why do I gotta?" "Those who don't work don't get to eat. That's the way of the world. So go on, time for you to do some work too." He grumbled, emerging from the room. "Just you wait." Nonetheless, he obeyed the instructions of the girl 15 years his junior. Despite his protests, he was entirely opposed to doing what she asked. What he was opposed to was the smart-ass grin on the face of one of the punks following the exchange. He glared at the punk as he passed. "What are you looking at?" "Jack!" Fine. He groused and resigned to the inevitable set-off. The battered door of the bar gave its familiar shriek as he passed through it. No sooner had he left, however, than the door let out another shriek. One could only assume either the owner didn't have the money to get a new one fitted, or he had decided it was actually quite convenient as a doorbell of sorts, heralding the arrival of a new customer. This particular collar couldn't possibly have been more out of place. It was none other than Nikki, the actress. Jun? I might have to double dip on Daybreak. My limited edition still has not shipped. That stinks, dude. Sorry. I hope it gets to you in time, man. For real. I hope it's not nearly as much a clusterfuck as it was with Reverie. I guess I was hoping that it wouldn't be. I feel like with Reverie, Nissa picked like the most inopportune time to give like shipping the old switcheroo, like changing systems. What was it, like a couple of weeks before release? It was super strange, and naturally it caused a shit ton of problems. Oh. Chapter 6. Women. Welcome to our... Nikki? Hallie gaped at the woman. I can't believe you're really working in a rundown place like this, Nikki replied with a laugh. She sauntered over to the counter and claimed one of the seats in the front of it with the ease of a regular. Silence permeated the bar, booze forgotten as all eyes drank in the sight of her. Good to see you again, she said to the owner. I'm kind of surprised, though. Your customers seem more well-behaved these days. The owner laughed. Really? We've got Hallie to thank for that, then. You know the owner here? Then, were you and Jack, Nikki flashed a smile at her. He's a former lover of mine, yes. Hallie was stunned into silence by the response. It wasn't as though she hadn't thought it to be the case, she just hadn't expected Nikki to admit the truth so freely. Nikki giggled at the expression on her face. That look of surprise is really cute, too. Maybe you should try becoming an actress yourself. I definitely think you've got the potential. Really? Hallie gave a nervous laugh. I'm pretty sure I'm not cut out for it. Her usual confidence deflated under the playful gaze of the older woman. She might have no problem bullying Jack, but Nikki was another matter. She hesitated. Deep down, Hallie had a lot that she wanted to ask about Jack and Nikki's relationship with one another, but she couldn't bring herself to do so. As if reading her thoughts, Nikki's perfect smile widened. I don't mind answering your questions, she began. But it's no fun if I just tell you everything, so why don't we make a little wager? If you win, I'll tell you what you want to know. But if I win, I've got something I want to ask you. Exactly what someone like Nikki would have to ask someone like her, Hallie couldn't fathom, but she wasn't the type to back down from a challenge when it came to gambling. She took after her father in that regard. They decided on cards, a game of blackjack. Nikki seemed unconcerned when Hallie confessed that she was rather good at it. Despite being a mere 15 years of age, Hallie was nothing short of a genius when it came to gambling. Part of it was due to the incredible amount of effort and dedication she had poured into acquiring her skills, but it was also thanks to her exceptional memory. Her powers of recollection were so great that not even her father nor Jack could compare. That, more than anything, was her greatest weapon. It also allowed her to be an expert at card counting, an ability that let users almost predict the cards in the next hand by remembering all previous cards used in the game. Blackjack in particular gave card counters a significant advantage, making it a game that Hallie had always been especially skilled at, excuse me. The game began. Watching Nikki, Hallie quickly came to the conclusion that Nikki wasn't used to playing blackjack at all. By the end, however, Nikki had somehow accumulated more chips than Hallie and was clearly the victor. Hallie leaned back in her chair impressed. I can't believe you managed to cheat. If you can't prove it was cheating, it's not cheating. Hallie hadn't intended to let her guard down against Nikki. She had just misjudged her skill level. The older woman had made use of her own years of experience and acting talents to feign inexperience. It had been a ploy designed to mask her skills and fool Hallie into complacency, and Hallie had fallen for it utterly. Nikki winked at her. I am an actress by profession, after all. You'll probably ask Miss America directly about my order if it hasn't shipped by Thursday. Shadow, what's up, dude? Yo, what's up, NY? I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I apologize, and I don't want to botch it. Is it supposed to be like New York Cry? New York? It's probably not, but you know, obviously I've botched it, so I'll wait for you to tell me how it's pronounced. But welcome in, bud. Good to see you. Chapter 7, The Shadow. Well then, Nikki continued, I take it you'll be willing to answer my question? Hallie nodded. That was the deal. Good girl. Now I realize it might be insensitive to ask about this, but King didn't happen to leave anything in your care 7 years ago, did he? Hallie cast her mind back to her last memory of her father and felt a slight twinge of sadness thinking about what had happened to him after it. The pain of his loss had subsided since she met Jack and would likely continue to do so, but it would be a lie to say that it had completely gone. She racked her brain seeking an answer to Nikki's question and quickly realized that the other woman was probably asking about the jeweled Eastern-style necklace that she wore around her neck. This? Hallie said, showing her the pendant. He gave it to me when I came to visit for the last time. Nikki was silent for a moment. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know. She rose from the stool. Well, then I suppose I should be going. I wouldn't want to keep Leonard waiting. Her farewell said, she handed a tip to the bar's owner and exited with a beguiling sweep through the door. The punks watched her departure in silence, none daring to break her spell, even after she was gone. After Nikki had left, Hallie resumed her usual work. Time ticked by as she wiped down tables and busied herself. She sighed. Jack sure is late. It had been almost an hour since he left to run his errands. She wasn't concerned about him, though. She'd bet her boots that he was just off somewhere slacking or messing about. She stepped outside through the back entrance to take out the garbage. Just as she did, a great shadow filled the alley, blanketing her in darkness. Hey, guess who's back? Came the loud call of none other than Jack. His voice was almost drowned out by the shriek of the doors as it flung open. One look at him proved Hallie's suspicions on his tardiness correct. He had far more shopping bags than he should have. Huh? Where did Hallie go? He asked, noticing her absence. The owner glanced around. Now you mention it, I haven't seen her since she went to take the garbage out earlier. Jack was suddenly overcome by a great sense of foreboding. He hurried out the back entrance, but only the collection of scattered garbage bags awaited him. Bags, and a very conspicuously placed card. On its front was a simple message. We have Hallie. If you want her back, come to the designated place. Leonard. Damn it! Jack's angry cry echoed in the empty alley. His face a thundercloud, he crushed the card in his fist. Hot damn. I did not think about Americans when I chose. Yo, it's all good. It's more like Nick Ray. Okay. Would it be okay if I leaned into, can I call you Nick? Is that okay? Just to shorten it, because I know tomorrow, the day, I'll still butcher it. I'll be like, Nick Ree? But it's totally up to you. Obviously, I just want to get it right. I want you to be comfy. It's perfect? Right on, dude. Oh, Shadow King, you were serious. I legit thought you were just joking when you said, like, you were just gonna ask Miss America directly about your order. Unless you were joking, then it just went right over my head. Then that wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary. I go by Nick as well, so it's all good? Excellent. Well, welcome in. It's good to have you here, bud. Chapter 8, Black and White. The designated place alluded to on the card was one of the largest, most well-known racetracks in all of Calvert. Part of its fame was due to the fact that it permitted gambling on its races, and this attracted a large number of visitors. Furthermore, today was one of the track's biggest races of the year, a day where many highly skilled teams of racers gathered to compete. It was a popular event, and the number of spectators was even greater than usual. The payouts for those who gambled on the races were bigger as a result, too. Stepping out onto the track, Jack sighed. Sure brings back memories. As he surveyed the familiar grounds, he found himself reminiscing about the times King had brought him and Leonard there to hone their gambling instincts all those years ago. Leonard was the one who had predicted winners correctly the most often. He had spent a lot of time analyzing the outcomes of past races and bet larger sums on the cars most likely to win. As a result of relying on safe bets like these, though, his payouts tended to be comparatively low. King often used to laugh at him for it, always remarking, "Where's the fun in that?" King, meanwhile, used his brilliant instincts and powers of observation to guide him and successfully predicted the outcome of one race after the other. Of the three of them, it was he who consistently earned the most Mira. For Jack's part, his interest lay in winning big on a single bet. He lost money far more often than the other two, but occasionally displayed even greater gambling intuition than King himself, and sometimes won over 100 times the Mira he bet. While he stood there mulling over those decade-old wins and losses, several men in black suits approached him. Presumably, they were Leonard's subordinates. "Please allow us to escort you," one said politely. Jack followed. Eventually, he found himself in a VIP room. Encased in thick glass, it gave the occupants inside a very up-close and personal view of the racetrack outside. In it sat Leonard, Nikki, and a loosely bound Hallie. Hallie! Without thinking, he made to dash towards her, but was quickly stopped by the men who brought him there. Each held a gun. Now, no need to be so hasty," Leonard laughed. "I'm glad you could make it, Jack. I've got some real fun in store for you today." "Leonard, you son of a bitch!" Jack's furious expression was a stark contrast to Leonard's playful tone. "Finally saying what you truly think about me, Jack. I'm glad." Leonard looked genuinely satisfied. Jack shot a glance over in Nikki's direction. "I can't believe you're seriously helping him with this." "I'm afraid so," she replied simply, before drawing closer to Leonard. "As I'm sure you've already worked out, our aim is the joker that King left Hallie over there," Leonard continued, turning the jewel from Hallie's necklace over and over again between his fingers. Jack had indeed surmised as much. When Jack won the battle against King 7 years ago, King had given him a code of sorts that he wanted him to pass on to Hallie. That code was intended to unlock the Joker that King had once secretly kept on him. At the time, Jack hadn't understood the meaning of what he was being asked to do, but he did now. King was well known in the underworld. He had all kinds of connections, but those ties weren't just limited to the less savory of players. Many of the people he was connected to moved both inside and outside the underworld. "Tell me, Jack," Leonard said, "if the underworld is black and the world outside it is white, which do you think the world of politics is?" Jack snorted. "Hell if I know." "As black as can be," Leonard said matter-of-factly. He made an offhand gesture. King was a smart man, a calculating man. This jewel here, this is a memory quartz, and one full of information on the people he knew. People in the criminal underworld, public faces who have connections in it themselves. The power this information holds is nothing short of incredible, and I intend to use it to keep moving up the ranks as a politician. And for that, Jack, he continued, I need the code that you and only you know. Jack was silent for a moment. I'm surprised you know all of that. I take it this is your doing, Nikki? But of course, she confirmed. I want him to spread his wings and fly too, after all. Spread his wings and fly? Jack repeated with a disbelieving sigh. That's what you call this? Preying on people, king's daughter no less, for a bit of political advantage? He left that data behind to protect Hallie from harm. What's the point of being promoted if you have to take advantage of a father's love for his daughter to do it? Jack's words resonated strongly with Hallie, but they fell on deaf ears when it came to Leonard and Nikki. I can't say I don't have a soft spot for that idealism of yours, Nikki said finally. But if you're afraid of using others for your own goals, you're never going to get anywhere in life. You'll forever remain a powerless child. Leonard laughed. Forget it. No amount of logic will get through to him. Still, I'd feel guilty taking everything from you without completely beating you into submission first. Gotta give you a chance to fight back after all. So here's what I propose, Jack. We'll have a little gambling competition. If you win, you can have Hallie back. If I win, you'll give me that code. Simple, right? Jack considered it. Leonard was smart, but he was also very cautious. It was clear from his aura of confidence that he was pretty certain that he would win. Jack, however, had no intentions of backing down. Thus began their great wager over the outcome of the day's races with Hallie's fate on the line. I wasn't joking since I'm going to be at Anime. No. Like, I gathered that you were actually going to be at Anime Expo. You know what? Never mind. Have fun. Again, it went right over my head. Right over my noggin. Chapter 9, Good and Evil. There was roughly an hour until the first race of the day was scheduled to begin, and so they agreed to use that time to formulate their strategies. Jack was led to another room by Leonard's men. He was also accompanied by Hallie, who would serve as his advisor. Leonard's advisor would naturally be Nikki. I take it's just running away isn't an option? I mean, I'm free and all, Hallie said once in the room. Jack shook his head. Even if we did manage to get away, which isn't especially likely, he's not the kind of guy to just let this go. If this method doesn't work, he'll just do something worse. Worse for us, of course. Yeah, I suppose you're right, Hallie said. Okay, forget it. Just had to ask. As Jack had noted, however, the odds of them being able to run away weren't particularly promising to begin with, as Leonard's men were likely to be everywhere. They pondered their predicament for a moment. Hallie broke the heavy silence. Hey, Jack, has Leonard always been a bad guy like that? Jack couldn't help but smile slightly at the childish way she phrased the question. As far as he was concerned, the vast majority of gamblers, himself included, were to some degree or another bad guys. He knew what she meant, though. Both he and King had been part of the criminal underworld, but they had their morals and lines that they wouldn't under any circumstances cross. Back in the day, that had been true of Leonard and Nikki too, but now... So they weren't then. I wonder what changed them, Hallie mused. Jack had a pretty good idea of the answer. King's death 7 years prior. After that, Jack had lost his drive, his passion. His despondency had in turn caused Nikki to become disappointed in him and leave his side. Leonard, meanwhile, found a new life of his own way, away from gambling. It wasn't long after that news of Leonard's move to politics reached Jack's ears. It was a transition that made sense to Jack, too. Leonard had always been one who loved flashiness, loved to stand out. In short time, though, less pleasant rumors began to spread about him. The whispers never left the realm of hearsay, but the content was enough to make Jack concerned. Bribes, suspicions involving organized crime. It was often said that power corrupted, but Jack hadn't expected it of someone he knew so well. Nikki really is pretty, though, Hallie said abruptly. You sure you're completely over her? Flustered, Jack could only gape for a second before stuttering. What makes you think I wouldn't be? Of course I am. His expression told a different story, though, and Hallie immediately regretted pressing him on the subject. Anyway, Jack said, this isn't gonna be easy while he has Nikki on his side. There are many who call her the goddess of victory for the luck she brings to men. Goddess of victory, huh? I'm guessing you're one of those men too, Victory Jack. He couldn't deny it. She was completely right. Nikki's gambling skills were just as good as Jack or Leonard's, and whenever she and Jack had worked as a team, they had never been defeated. Hallie looked intrigued when he mentioned their teamwork. You guys worked grifts together? He nodded, and it seemed as though that there was more she wanted to ask, but she dropped it and changed the subject. You aren't going to look at all that race data they gave us then? Nah, I follow the races here as it is, so I pretty much know all the stuff already. Besides, numbers don't tell the whole story. Gotta get a read on the atmosphere out on the track if you really want to score big. Looks like we'll have to wing the first one blind, though. A quick glance at the clock confirmed his dismay. The start of the first race was rapidly approaching. Chapter 10, The Rules. Hydrate we shall. No, there we go. Chapter 10, The Rules. 15 minutes before the first race was scheduled to start, Jack and Hallie made their way to the VIP room where they came face to face with Leonard and Nikki again. The rules of the competition were simple. Each side would begin with 100,000 Mira. For each race, each side must purchase one betting ticket, no more, no less. Furthermore, 12 Orbital cars would compete in each race. The types of betting ticket available, meanwhile, were as follows. 1. Show. To win, the chosen car needed to come in either first, second, or third place. This bet type had the highest chances of winning, and as a result, the payout was the lowest as well. 2. Win. To win, the chosen car needed to come in first. This bet type was less likely to be successful than a show bet, but still relatively likely compared to the others. As such, the potential winnings were relatively low. Exacta. 3. To win, the chosen 2 cars needed to come in first and second place. The bettor had to also accurately predict which came in first and which came in second. This bet type was one of the more difficult ones, and as such, potential winnings were relatively high. 4. The trifecta. Similar to an exacta, except the bettor needed to predict in order which cars would come first, second, and third. This bet type was the least likely to be successful and therefore paid the highest dividends. 5. Exacta box. Like an exacta, the bettor needed to predict the cars that would come first and second. Unlike a regular exacta, however, these could be in either order. This bet type was more likely to pay out than an exacta, but because of that, it paid less as well. 6. Trifecta box. Like a trifecta, except the 3 cars could come in any order as long as one comes first, one second, and one third. This paid out more than an exacta box, but less than a regular trifecta. Low key, I hope that there is car racing that we can partake in Daybreak. I finally got around to checking, and our buff did upgrade to Road to 90, so we got 10 more levels of double XP. Let's go. Hell yeah. Yeah. We'll, yeah. Well, shit, man. When is that? It's G-Breaker, right? Is that the Gundam G-Breaker? Is it G-Breaker 4 that you showed? And that's the beta isn't until, you said, the weekend of July 18th? Or no, because that's not this weekend, right? 2 weekends, okay. Watch, it'll be Yakuza's Racing, where it's pocket racing. Now, excuse my stupidity, but what is pocket racing? Small carts. Oh, okay. Well, now I'm going to have to look it up, but that would be wild. Slot cars. Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. Jack and Leonard would each buy a ticket and then show it to the other before the race began. There was no limit to the amount of Mira that each could bet on one race, so as long as they could afford to bet it. If either of them ran out of Mira, the other would be the victor. In all, 7 races were to take place that day, with 4 in the first half and 3 in the second. The races in the second half, the last in particular, paid the highest dividends. Each race usually took about 10 to 15 minutes. Each car was also obliged to make at least one pit stop to charge their car's EP and change tires. It sounds like big cars to me, but who knows? Completing these actions swiftly and efficiently added another element of challenge to the competition. Large groups and corporations sponsored the teams participating in the race, and the results had implications not just for the teams themselves, but for countless powerful figures and groups in the Republic who used the races as a proxy for their pride and reputations. The winning team were also rewarded with vast amounts of Mira. The rules confirmed and agreed upon, Jack and Leonard purchased their first betting tickets, and the battle between them finally began. Chapter 11, the first half. Before the beginning of the race, Jack and Leonard showed one another what betting tickets they had purchased. Jack, after asking Hallie for her opinion, eventually settled on placing 10,000 Mira on a trifecta of cars 5, 1, and 3. His reasoning was that car 5 and 1 had the highest total number of races won, while 3 had shown a lot of potential in recent races. His bet was relatively safe and grounded in logic, but with just enough of an element of unpredictability to keep things interesting. Seeing his choice, Leonard laughed, remarking, "Someone hasn't changed." His ticket, meanwhile, was an exacta box on cars 1 and 3, on which he had placed a 20,000 Mira bet. Jack was surprised. The Leonard he knew would have gone for an exacta box on cars 1 and 5, or perhaps pushed his luck slightly and gone for an exacta on cars 5 and 1. Leonard, however, had defied expectations by going for 1, the second most popular car in the recently successful car 3. If anything, Jack thought, that was the kind of bet King would have made. Realizing what was on Jack's mind, Leonard's smile widened. "My time in politics has taught me a lot of things, Jack." 15 minutes later, the result of the first race came in. Car 3 had come in first place, followed by 1, then car 5 in third. Car 3 had, it seemed, showed its potential yet again. As a result of the outcome, Leonard won his bet while Jack lost. Jack's total Mira decreased to 90,000, while Leonard's increased to almost 150,000. Nikki giggled. "Seems we're off to a good start." Leonard drew her in close and whispered in her ear, "All thanks to you." Jack averted his eyes. Hallie tugged on his sleeve to get his attention. "Don't worry, Jack. We're only just getting started." No matter what she said, though, there was a 60,000 Mira difference in their totals right off the bat, and that was a significant difference. The second race began. Jack once again placed 10,000 Mira on a trifecta, while Leonard went with a much more certain show bet. This time, however, he placed all of the 50,000 Mira he had won from the first race on it. Once more, Jack's bet fell short and his pool of Mira dropped to 80,000. Leonard, meanwhile, was successful a second time and boosted his earnings to over 170,000 Mira. Leonard now had twice the amount that Jack did. The third race began. For a third time, Jack placed 10,000 Mira on a trifecta. Leonard went for a slightly more risky bet than usual and wagered 20,000 Mira on an exacta. This time, both men lost their bets. Finally, it was time for the last race in the first half to begin. Jack, seemingly undeterred by his continual losses, once again staked 10,000 Mira on a trifecta. Leonard could only sigh at Jack's refusal to learn from his mistakes, but Jack paid him no mind. For his part, Leonard went for another exacta, but this time he placed 30,000 Mira on it. Jack won his bet, or Leonard won his bet and Jack lost his. The race over, the first half came to an end. Jack was left with only 60,000 Mira, while Leonard had increased his winnings to over 240,000 Mira, roughly 4 times the amount Jack had left. Luck sure seems to be on my side today, huh, Jack? Leonard taunted. Jack said nothing. There was a roughly hour-long break between the first and second halves. After beckoning Hallie to follow him, Jack walked quickly out of the room and over to their waiting area. Barely through the doorway, Hallie threw up her hands and cried, "What are we gonna do, Jack? If we don't turn things around fast, we're screwed. We need to start making safer bets next time and..." Jack cut her off. "Nah, even if we were to win bets like that, they're not gonna be enough to close the gap between us. As soon as we start thinking like that, this gamble's as good as lost." "Well, sure, but still..." Contrary to Jack's seeming casualness, however, he didn't really have any better ideas than Hallie did. He was racing his brain for just as much as she was. What he did know was that the gap between he and Leonard was far too great for them to be able to win based on instinct alone. Hallie suddenly brightened. "Oh yeah! I did notice something that stood out in that race data." As a general rule of thumb, betting on popular and proven teams tended to lead to relatively low payouts if they won, while unpopular and generally unsuccessful teams gave much greater payouts. Races held at this track were somewhat different though. In particular, major events like the one currently underway had higher than normal payout rates, meaning that bettors received much more than they otherwise would. As one example of this, generally, teams that consistently lost accordingly paid the highest dividends on the off chance that they had won, and far from deterring bettors, this often attracted lots of people who wanted to bet on underdogs and win big. In theory, large numbers of people betting on such underdogs would make the potential payouts decrease, but the payout rates were adjusted to make sure that they didn't fall too much in order to keep things exciting for the gamblers who were betting. Even factoring in all that, Hallie went on, there was one team whose potential payout seemed odd. Jack had a look, and sure enough, he found himself agreeing. It wasn't odd to the extent that the average person would notice, but she wasn't wrong. The driver for that team was a man named Carlos, a real veteran racer who held the current official record for the most consecutive victories. It was an achievement that had earned him the nickname Legend. In recent years, however, he'd stopped winning at all, a fact that had led to more and more people calling him Legendary Loser instead. He was also an old friend of King's. Jack himself had met the man too. Jack chewed over her finding for a moment and then said, "Thanks for your tip, Hallie. I'm just gonna step out for a bit, okay? Soon as our break's over, head back on over to the VIP room without me." "Wait a second," she shouted after him, but he paid her no mind and strolled nonchalantly out of the room. I'm trying to rack my brain to see where it's going. Chapter 12, the second half. Pardon me. 10 minutes before the start of the 5th race, Jack had yet to return. "I hope he hasn't gone and run off," said Leonard, his voice heavy with scorn. "He wouldn't dream of it," Hallie retorted. Nikki laughed. "Apparently not. Here he comes now." Jack ambled over. "Sorry," he said. "Had to take a leak." Jack's carefree manner seemed to annoy Leonard, but it filled Hallie with relief. He had been so subdued in the first half that to see him back to his old self gave her confidence until she remembered that they hadn't even bought their betting ticket. Exasperated, she hustled him to the counter to get one. The 5th race began. Continuing his pattern from the first half, Jack went for a trifecta. Unlike the first half, however, he only bet 5,000 Mira on it. "Here I was thinking you'd get all cocky, then you go and lower your bet." Leonard radiated confidence, but deep down, he knew exactly what Jack was doing. Jack was going to conserve as much money as he could until the final race and then bet it all on that. Knowing that, he realized he couldn't afford to let up his offensive and decided to bet a massive 100,000 Mira on a win bet. The team he staked his wager on was an outside chance as well. In the end, the team Leonard bet on was victorious while Jack lost his 5,000 Mira. As a result, Jack was down to a mere 55,000 Mira, while Leonard's total exceeded 500,000. The gap between them continued to grow larger and larger. The sixth race began. Once again, Jack placed 5,000 Mira on a trifecta. Leonard, meanwhile, didn't seem to be feeling especially confident about the race and put a mere 10,000 Mira on a safe exacta box bet. The race that took place was easily the most intense of the days thus far, and had the spectators on the edge of their seats. Successful winners on trifecta tickets earned over 100 times what they bet, but both Jack and Leonard had backed the wrong cars. "If only we'd picked the right cars on that one," cried a frustrated Hallie. If Jack shared her dismay, though, he didn't show it. His thoughts were all for the final race. The seventh race of the day was about to begin. Having lost every bet he had made so far, Jack was down to a mere 50,000 Mira. Leonard's winnings now totaled roughly 500,000 Mira, even though he too had lost the sixth race. In order to catch up, Jack would need to make a bet that paid out over 10 times his wager amount, even more if Leonard was to win his own bet. Incidentally, the two had agreed not to show each other which betting tickets they had gone for until after the race had ended. This was in order to make things more interesting. According to Leonard, anyway. The starting light shifted from red to green, and the race that would determine everything began. Chapter 13. The Price of the Soul. It quickly became apparent that this final battle was going to be even more intense and unpredictable than the sixth race had been. First, Car 4, which had been favored to win, had to withdraw partway through due to mechanical trouble. The second and third most popular cars, 3 and 6 respectively, also had their own share of problems, and while they were able to continue the race, their performance was far from their full capabilities. Thanks to these technical difficulties, there were essentially only 9 of the original 12 cars still in the race. Of those 9, Car 1 had the highest odds of winning, but Car 5 stubbornly refused to allow it to overtake, and Car 1 was unable to get into the lead. The car at the front of the race were 7, 2, and 12. While they generally held that order, they were constantly jockeying for position. Furthermore, Car 12 was driven by none other than Carlos, the legendary loser. That in itself generated a lot of excitement, as it had been quite some time since he had been anywhere near those close to winning a major race. As the heated race neared the end, the final corner that would determine everything approached. Just as they began the bend, a gap opened up between cars 7 and 2. Whether it was nerve or a lapse in concentration, the driver of those two cars had a space wide enough for Carlos to sneak through, and he seized his chance. With a deft hand at the wheel, Car 12 shot through and took the lead. The race ended. Car 12 was victorious, while Car 7 held on to second place and Car 2 came in third. Leonard watched all of this unfold with a sour look. "Did you lose?" asked Hallie. Her hopes, however, were quickly dashed. He shook his head and laughed. No, I just wasn't expecting Old Legend to snag first place like that. I did believe he had the goods to get into the top 3, though. His smile widened. "You see, I bet on a trifecta box with cars 2, 7, and 12. The payout's 120 times what I staked." Jack and Hallie were stunned speechless. To make matters worse, Leonard had bet 400,000 Mira, meaning that he received 48 million from his ticket. He watched their faces with undisguised smugness. "Looks like you two realize now that you never stood a chance in Gehenna of beating me." Nikki giggled at his shoulder. "Sure seems that way." The pair oozed confidence, sure that they had won. Hallie's face fell. Then she stuck her tongue out at them. Nah, we just want you to think that. Jack grinned at the puzzled look on Leonard's face. What the lady said. We were just pretending to be surprised. Then you didn't. Leonard couldn't seem to work out what they were trying to imply, but Nikki quickly understood. Her painted lips compressed into a flat line. I put my money on a trifecta, Jack clarified. 12, 7, and 2. Get it now? That's 1,100 times what I bet. This time it was Leonard and Nikki who were stunned into silence. Tickets that paid out over 100 times the bet made were rare enough even at this racetrack, but tickets that paid out over 1,000 times the bet were almost unheard of. As a result of his bet, Jack had won 55 million Mira, a total pot that was significantly higher than Leonard's, 48,100,000 winnings. What? How did you? It was Jack's turn to laugh at the furious expression on Leonard's face. You do realize that asking me that is basically admitting wrongdoing on your part, right? He said. But if you really want to know, I'll tell you. It's simple. I bribed Carlos. You did what? I got a friend of mine to get a ticket just like this one. The money for it was 100,000 Mira he'd gathered on the spot in my name. Multiply that by 1,100 and you get 110 million. I told Carlos he could have the lot. What? But I've been sending him. Why would he throw all of that away for a one-off sum like that, however big? Jack made a tisking sound. You might be able to buy people's hearts with money for a while, Leonard, but there's no amount of Mira that will let you buy their souls. The fact that Carlos accepted my offer is pretty solid proof of that. I'm guessing he wanted out a long time ago. What do you know? Leonard gestured angrily, but then grudgingly added, I'm pretty impressed though. Admittedly, he wasn't alone, but it takes some skill to manipulate the outcome of races from right at the back. Old Legend hasn't lost his touch, that's for sure. It was at this point that Hallie spoke up. But if you'd arranged the outcome from the start, why did you go for a box instead of just a trifecta? And why not go all in and bet your last 100,000 Mira too? Leonard looked away. Well, just to be on the safe side. Jack's suspicions had proved right. Leonard knew as well as anyone that it was impossible to completely remove all unpredictable elements from a bet. As such, his way was to excise as much as humanly possible and then take the surest and safest path to victory. He hadn't changed at all. Makes sense, Hallie said. Too bad it cost you the victory, though. If you'd gone all in, you would have won, too. Leonard's head snapped back around. What? He quickly did the sums in his head and realized the truth. If he had bet his entire 500,000 Mira, he would have won 66 million Mira, comfortably beating Jack's 55 million. It's a mistake, Leonard blurted out. A mix-up. The subordinate I asked to buy the ticket must have bet the wrong amount. I didn't lose. I couldn't possibly lose. Save it, Leonard, Nikki interjected coolly. You messed with the most popular car in the race, didn't you? You did an excellent job of hiding the evidence, but no amount of hiding is going to be enough when someone already knows what you're going to do and can watch out for you. She pointed a perfect lacquered nail at him. You've been getting away with things for a long time, but not anymore. Or did she double-cross him? They all stared at her. What are you talking about? Leonard sputtered. What are you suggesting? It's probably faster to just show you, she said. Come on in. At Nikki's signal, a number of men in black suits entered the VIP room. They weren't Leonard's men, though. Instead, they surrounded him and his underlings. This is the end of the line for you, Leonard. We've already taken the rest of your men into custody. Leonard wasn't the only one baffled by what was happening. Nikki, what are you? Began a puzzled Jack. With a laugh, Nikki took a pair of glasses from her pocket, placed them on her nose, and addressed him directly. I should probably introduce myself, shouldn't I? Being an actress isn't my primary occupation. I'm actually a member of the Rocksmith Agency, an intelligence group which answers directly to the president. Jack and Hallie could only gape at her in shock. No shit. All right. Chapter 14. F.A., what's good, broski? The aftermath. Leonard was led away without a struggle by Nikki's elite subordinates. He stood accused of fixing all 7 of the races that took place that day, as well as hindering many of the teams who took part in them and damaging their property, along with a host of other crimes. Either way, it seemed as though he would have a lot to answer for. Unfortunately, it seemed that Carlos, the winner of the 7th race, was also to be tried as a co-conspirator for having gone along with Leonard's plans. A week later, everything was back to normal in the bar where Jack and Hallie spent much of their time in the Eastern Quarter. Everything except the fact that Jack was actually reading a newspaper anyway. He was looking at an article about Leonard's arrest. Hallie, meanwhile, was pretending to be a bartender, or rather practicing being one. Oh yeah, she said all of a sudden. Hey Jack, what happened to the 55 million mirror you won anyway? He shook his head sadly. Gone like a bad bet, sad to say. Nikki took it. It was regarded as mirror obtained through illegal means or some such. Aw, too bad. You're telling me the 110 million mirror he had a friend win, meanwhile, hadn't been confiscated, but Jack had already made up his mind that it would go to Carlos one day. It was his after all. You sure you're okay with handing over that money, that memory quartz though? Jack asked. She nodded. Yeah, the last thing I want is someone else after me because of it. After Leonard was apprehended, Jack had left it up to Hallie to decide what she wanted to do with the memory quartz full of incriminating information that King had left her. She had elected to hand it over to Nikki. King had intended to act as a shield for Hallie if she ever ended up getting involved in the underworld, but that very safeguard had placed her life in danger. And now, an even larger number of people knew it existed. It was simply too dangerous for her to hold on to. Originally, the only ones who knew about the memory quartz's existence were Jack and Nikki, although only Jack had known that it had been incorporated into the necklace. Nikki had only found out when Hallie told her in the bar. Now that everything was over, Jack couldn't help but suspect that Nikki's true aim all along had been to obtain that and not Leonard's arrest. So, what was the code to open the thing anyway? Hallie asked. You really want to know? Sure do. Jack cleared his throat, embarrassed. It was my beloved Hallie. Ain't never met a more doting father than your old man. Taken completely by surprise by his answer, a single tear rolled down Hallie's cheek. As a gambler, she was first rate, but in every other respect, she was still an ordinary girl. She wiped the tear away and then spoke again, her tone carrying no trace of sadness she must feel. Hey, Jack, I've got a favor I'd like to ask you. Just as she spoke, however, the door opened again and let out its usual piercing shriek. Through it came Nikki wearing the glasses she had been when they saw her, and a pair of casual jeans instead of a fancy dress. Without preamble, she said, Hey there, Jack. I've got a proposal for you. How does working again as a team strike you? Hey! I was just about to ask him that, cried Hallie, not wanting to miss her chance. Jack sighed. The future, it seemed, was full of trouble. That was good. Truth be told, I think I like Gambler Jack Volume 1 more than I liked Gambler Jack Volume 2. And in terms of just pure brain juice, I think I was more intrigued by Sunshine Anyas. Grim, what's good? I think I'm gonna gamble after this. Play some gotcha, bro. There it is. There's your gambling. You don't even have to hit up a casino if you don't want to. Just do it right from the comforts of your cellular device. Oh no, the IRS! Yeah, that racetrack is pissed. They lost a ton of dough. Lots and lots of moolah, for sure. But that was good, man. It was definitely a good story. I like the relationship of Jack and Hallie, obviously the most. And yeah, like I think I liked Gambler Jack Volume 1 just a little bit more. Both kind of similar in the sense that, you know, you think you're up and then you just, I don't know, like you were already behind from the get-go, you know what I mean? Hefe, another reading down indeed. Tomorrow we got the Hardy one. We got big reads. We're gonna do some Beyond the Reverie for sure. Victorio! Dog, we're almost there. We've got, well, what time is it? I have my 10 o'clock? Yeah, so we've got 2 days and 2 hours, right? Yeah, 2 days, 2 hours for me here in the great state of New Hampshire. But we're almost there, dude. We are super goddamn close, and I can't wait. Mankey, thank you very much, man. For some reason, I felt like I stumbled over more words this evening. I'm gonna try and get my shit together for tomorrow. Yeah, Dan was saying that you're gonna be reading it as well on Thursday, Jeff. Excellent. Loki gonna be down to kick it into high gear and just play all weekend? Good. And I hope it's a goddamn vibe from start to finish. I know it will be. I have little doubt. I'm excited to experience it with everybody. I'm excited to see all the new. You know, we're in a completely new area in Zemuria. You know what I'm saying? Like that's got to be one of the most exciting parts too. A completely new cast. We don't know if anybody from the West will be returning. And then the music, obviously. I'm excited to see the new engine. See the new engine at work. The battle system. Because from what I understand, from what I recall, it's like a hybrid action / turn-based. So I don't know how that will work. Yeah, we weren't in Calvard for very long in Azure, though. Very, very short amount of time. Duddles and Arios. And Barrier Bannings, of course. My brother went in on demo and he's been very impressed. Obviously won't go into much more into the details besides Falcom never fucks the music. Of course they don't. Never. Yeah, Grim, I'm with you, dude. Whatever Calvard's got for us, I'm ready. Forgets Noel. Booty shorts? No, you just remember the booty shorts because you always have smut on the mind, Dan. You've always got culture on the brain. We were in Calvard for what, 7? Yeah, right? Pretty much. Just about. Not a very long time at all, for sure. And then, didn't we ride a train in Cold Steel at some point? We just, like, stayed in a train station at Calvard. Was it? Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly. We were trying to catch somebody. Yeah, I guess that would make sense, right? Yeah, we were trying to catch somebody. We got on the train, went there, and then just came back. Okay, yeah. We were on a train. I do recall that much. Okay. Dude, there's been something in my eye all night. Go away. Whatever it is. It's not fun, that's for sure. Oh, yeah! Yeah, we were after the grandma, and then Killica came to the rescue. God bless us, Killica. Thank you, my dear. But then, okay, so now let's see. Because just like we did last night, I don't know. All right, man. Yeah, we can go see Zach. He's doing Dawn Trail though, so. Oh man, I'm so excited for the potential Kilika and Zane. Screw off. He's Zane to me. Astro level 100? Oh, for real? What an animal. How have queue times been? I know I had seen in Discord there was, you know, obviously there were some elevated wait times. Pretty good. Okay, well that's good then. That's not a bad thing at all. Hot dog. Tomorrow, Beyond the Reverie. Thursday, raffle. Look back to go forward. Whatever I can never remember like the exact wording of it. So we'll watch that on Thursday night, and then we'll watch the replay, the Grandmaster bit. There was a hiccup Sunday when a bunch of people got disconnected and they shut. Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking, Phil. Otherwise, like 10 minutes and you're in. Perfect. That's easy peasy. I did also see there has been a considerable amount of complaints in regards to queue times for Duty Finder because everybody's just doing DPS, right? Because Pictomancer is a DPS class. It's caster, ranged DPS. And then you got Viper, who's a melee DPS. So everybody's playing those. It's so weird. I can't imagine being a tank or a healer and waiting in like a 25-minute queue. You know what I mean? Like that was always reserved for DPS classes. You play DPS, you were waiting 25 minutes. Literally 25 minutes. Sometimes you get lucky, but not often. Dawn Trail leading into trails. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Dog, RPG fans are eating good still. Still devouring goodness. All right, so let's queue up this raid. Let's go see Zach, who is playing Final Fantasy XIV. He is going through Dawn Trail currently, and I'm not positive if he is just leveling up classes or if he's going through the story beats as well. So, spoiler warning for sure. But thank you guys very, very much for another excellent cozy read. This will get uploaded ASAP as is tradition. He's doing MSQ, but it's pretty spoiler safe for now. Okay, great, perfect, good. And yeah, man, we'll be back at it again tomorrow. You'll have to get your drinks and snacks for sure for that one. We got about. I want to see if I can shave a couple minutes off my time, but without like, you know, I'm not trying to be a speed reader. But the last time we did it, Phil had said that it was, I thought it was a little over 3 hours. We did it in like 3 hours and 20 minutes Beyond the Reverie. So we're gonna hunker down tomorrow night for that one, dudes. So thank you all so incredibly much. Always, man, for everything. I love you guys. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you. We'll see you back here tomorrow, one day closer to Daybreak's launch. And you guys take care, all right? Stay happy, stay healthy, stay excellent. Bye, guys.